Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Washington Ethical Society. My name is Amy Foltz. My pronouns are she, her, and I am today's officiant. WES is one community unified across time and space, gathering for these Sunday platforms to affirm our values and commit to a better world. So I want to welcome those of you who are here in the hall, those who are watching now on Zoom, and anyone who's catching the recording later. If you're here on Zoom, please check the chat for a welcome and various tips from today's Zoom chat usher, Peter Bishop. If you're in the hall with us today and you would like an assistive listening device, please check with the sound team at the back of the room. A special welcome to our visitors today. We'd love to get to know you and answer any questions that you have. If you'd like to get on our email list, you can fill out the connection form at tiny.cc/wesconnects, or you can send an email to wes@ethicalsociety.org. And if you're here in person, we'd invite you to stop by the welcome table after platform, or just chat up anyone with a printed name badge. Now I'm going to check our Zoom chat to see who's attending with us remotely this morning. We have good morning from Lynn Jen. Eric Moyer is grateful that they are able to attend virtually despite having to work today. We have good morning from Bill Wilson. Sorry that I can't be there in person today. Thank you to the tech team. And Sam Nguyen says, thank you, tech team. Good morning from Hyattsville, Maryland. It is good to connect and to share this time together. Our opening words this morning are from the Canadian singer, songwriter, and activist, Allison Russell. We are not alone. We are not what we have lost. We are more than the sum of our scars. We are the dust of the stars. We are the arc of art. We are the love in our hearts. We lift each other up, and we are the beloved community every single time we choose to be. I believe what Alice Walker wrote. We are the ones that we have been waiting for. Today's opening song is Furulina, performed by Perry Bider. Nope, that is not the opener. Each week, we read our statement of purpose as a reminder of our shared values. If you're interested in taking a turn to read the statement of purpose, you can sign up at tiny.cc/readsop. Today's reader is Julie Grimes, a member of the WES Chorus.
Person's unique capacities. We joyfully celebrate together and support each other through life. We nurture a sense of reverence and responsibility for each other and the earth. We warmly invite you to join our community of children and adults as we work for a world where love and justice cross all borders.
Thank you. As Julie lights our community candle, I invite everyone to join in our candle lighting words. May we kindle within us the warmth of compassion, the light of understanding, and the fire of commitment to build a brighter future for all. Now we have a recorded WES board testimonial shared by Michael Dimian.
Hello, my name is Michael Dimian, and I am a member of the Washington Ethical Society. I joined WES, as we call it, in the fall of 2020, which, if you might remember, was a strange time for the world. We were in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. I was in the middle of a number of personal life transitions, and I was craving a community. But I wanted something special. I wanted a community of intention. I wanted it to be intellectually rigorous, and I also wanted it to be joyful. I wanted it to be a place where I and my children could feel welcome and could contribute. Sampling the platform services that WES was offering at the time, I found that in each of the ones that I attended, I often went away with like 2 or 3 fantastic book recommendations. And I felt like that was the type of community that I wanted to be part of. What attracted me to WES and to ethical culture in general is the very strong grounding and continued evolution within the philosophies of rational humanism, empiricism, and a willingness in the community to struggle with the very frequent complexities and paradoxes of human behavior and social phenomena. My team enjoys helping the tech crew prepare and perform the broadcasts of our platforms. My middle child has made an extremely close friend, and my elementary school age child spends her Sunday mornings with a small group of other kids, often accompanied by one of our longtime philosophy group discussion members, who also happens to be a retired philosophy professor. So how lucky is she? And as I understand it, they spend a lot of time making slime. So what could be better? And that's why I cherish the Washington Ethical Society.
Thank you for that, Michael. Now we're going to enter the centering time of our platform. This is a meditation I've adapted from the American spiritual teacher Ram Dass. Find a comfortable position in your seat. Take one deep breath in through the nose, hold for a moment, and release. Close your eyes or soften your gaze and take another breath together. Now I want you to take your awareness down to your feet and imagine drawing a line around the silhouette of your body. Bring that awareness around the entire outline of your form, drawing up from the feet, around the left ankle and leg, up the torso or arm depending on how you're sitting, along your head and your neck, down the other side, rejoining at your feet. This imaginary outline you've created contains everything that you are. It holds your humanity, your heartbreak, your love, and pain. Take a few breaths here in that container. Now imagine that container expanding outward from yourself. Let it grow and overlap with the other outlines in the room, sharing in their humanity, their heartbreak, love, and pain. Breathe together, inviting loving kindness in with every breath and breathing it out for others to share. We will continue our centering time in silence and the music that follows. Right. Thank you for that, Perry. The exact provenance of the following quote is a little bit tricky to pin down, but it has been attributed many times to Sophie Scholl, who is a young German woman executed by the Nazi Party for distributing anti-war leaflets in 1943, when she was only 21. The real damage is done by those millions who want to survive, the honest men who just want to be left in peace, those who don't want their little lives disturbed by anything bigger than themselves, those with no sides and no causes, those who won't take measure of their own strength for fear of antagonizing their own weakness, those who don't like to make waves or enemies, those for whom freedom, honor, truth, and principles are only literature, those who live small, mate small, and die small. It's the reductionist approach to life. If you keep it small, you'll keep it under control. If you don't make any noise, the boogeymen won't find you. But it's all an illusion because they die too. Those people who roll up their spirits into tiny little balls so as to be safe. Safe from what? Life is always on the edge of death. Narrow streets lead to the same place as wide avenues, and a little candle burns itself out just like a flaming torch does. I choose my own way to burn. Now, this morning's speaker. Once upon a time, there was a boy who got older. The boy had plans, and in response, the universe laughed. That boy is Verdell Anthony Wright. They are an expert communicator, organizer, and strategist who has been deeply involved in regional and national struggles toward progressive issues. Verdell was theologically trained via Howard University School of Divinity and Wesley Theological Seminary. There was a time when Verdell intended to be a preacher/scholar, but then they heard the universe's laugh track in the background again. After winding and surviving through many self-discoveries, apocalypses, and the end of Schitt's Creek, Verdell finds himself in the religious world once again. They work to help others fashion their own religious and spiritual tools to build their own lives after leaving harmful religious spaces and practices. Verdell lives with their partner Will and their two dogs, Hudo and Maxwell. You can find Verdell lifting weights, singing TV theme songs at inappropriate times, or explaining why birds are dinosaurs. In today's talk, Verdell will use Exodus 3:1-15 to discuss how an ancient story about a divine name can be instructive for how we live our lives today. There will be a question and answer period after the talk. So welcome, Verdell Anthony Wright.
Good morning. Excuse me, I'm a little injured today. This happens when you are in your 40s and play like you're 10 outside. A little bit of an audible. That sermon, the bio is still correct. I'm still all of those wonderful and probably a little annoying things. But I actually will be, that was the sermon that I did last time I was here. What was it? Actually around this time? Last year, I think. Yeah. But this time, I am going to be talking about some current events. Just to let you know, I talked to your servant leader beforehand to get their permission. And so, if you're mad at me, it's their fault. I made sure they said that I could say the things that I ran them past them, and they were like, you know what, go ahead, they can do that. So please make sure that all complaints are left on their desk Monday morning. And so what we're going to talk about today is the theme of this, that I do not want these neighbors. I do not want these neighbors. Now, if you will excuse me, I'm going to read the text that I'll be coming from dealing with this. It's going to be from Luke chapter 10, verse 25 through 37. Even though my beliefs shifted, I'm still very much a preacher boy somewhere in there. Amen. All right. So if you allow me, I'll just read this to ground us, and then we will get into our conversation for today. So again, Luke chapter 10, verses 25 through 37. On one occasion, an expert of the law stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he asked, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "What is written in the law?" he replied. "How do you read it?" He answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." "You have answered correctly," Jesus replied. "Do this and you will live." But he wanted to justify himself. So he asked Jesus, "And who exactly is my neighbor?" In reply, Jesus said, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. The priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he met the man, he passed on the other side of him. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring oil and wine. And he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said, "and when I return, I'll reimburse you for any extra expense you may have." Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell in the hands of the robbers? The expert in the law replied, "The one who had mercy on him." Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." So I don't know if you've been busy or not, but it's been a rather interesting month or so, one would say, in the United States of America. I know there was an election or something like that I heard took place that, didn't really go away, that many people were hoping that it did. And if there was a way to somehow be, what's the phrase? We're back at square one. Is that the phrase? If there was a way to be back at square zero, I think this is it, somehow. But, what's interesting for me, and particularly in my line of work, working in communications and doing, a lot of work around progressive messaging and getting certain ideas out into the public and helping them to take root, that a lot of people felt angry. It wasn't shock. I remember when, he won in 2016, and being around DC, it was like everybody knew the same person who died. Everything was quiet, nothing, everything, but it wasn't anger. It was just kind of like, how could this happen? But now it's like anger and rage. And I'm sure it's in no small part because of, the wonderful exit polls that showed that, that our incoming president actually got more people to support him this time than last time. Although I will note, as somebody with numbers, this may be a little pleasure, but fewer people voted overall. So even though he got most of the vote, it was a smaller election altogether, which means that more people opted out. So that's probably a small comfort because he still won, but it's not as if, it was the same as 2020 and then that. But he did get more people the more support. And what people in various groups did, and what I noticed too, is that they were mad. People started, distancing themselves. I'm not talking to these people. I'm not talking to them because how dare them not vote this way? How dare they not do the things that I would have done, and treating poll numbers as if they're actually people, to the point where, oh, I'm going to make a blue bracelet so that way you know I'm safe. Because, I mean, I don't know about you, but if I'm scared, a blue bracelet really makes me feel secure. But everybody of all different demographics and groups, Black women saying, hey, we're on sabbatical, we're not doing anything. And even a lot of Democratic leaders saying, well, we were too woke. We should have been more mainline to do this. We knew we were too nice to trans people. And I kept looking for the time that happened. Maybe someone can point me to that time when it happened. I don't remember when it happened. But people just began to become more insulated and just angry. And again, even turning on one another. And I don't mean the folks over there, the supporters. I mean, in the folks who are in our own little motley crew, turning on one another. Like I just said, you had even our own Democratic politicians saying, well, we cater too much to these groups and to that group and this group over here and to that pet thing. We need to not do that. That's why we lost. Or continuing to adopt even some of the frames that they take. That there's too much diversity. There's too much of it. And there's just too much, That even having, a woman who is Black and South Asian, that's just too much diversity. We shouldn't have did that. Yeah, that was a mistake too. That we should find ways. It's too much. People aren't ready for all this diversity. That we go too far. We need to cater to Middle America because Middle America is, there's apparently no diversity there either. But also, not a peep from so many people since the election. I don't know about you. Maybe this is just me. But if you tell me that if someone, I don't know, I play video games, right? And usually it's some type of thing where if we don't stop the bad guy, they're going to ruin the world, right? And so what you do, well, actually, no, you all are better than me. What I do is sit there and push buttons forever until I save the world, because if Link doesn't win, who will, right? If Mario doesn't win, who will? And so that means I have to help. But to be told that someone is such a unique, distinct, existential threat and then lose to this threat and disappear doesn't really inspire hope in many people, does it? Doesn't really make people feel like they have a fighting chance overall. And so what do we do here? What's the situation? We're in this situation here where the institutions and worlds are crumbling around us, and we are pointing the fingers at other people who we thought were on our team, concerned about what all of our lives will look like, while still trying to maintain some sense of normalcy. I mean, some people just call that Monday, but, So what does this even matter? What does this have to do with anything I just said about that text? Let's just first get into some of the context. If you've been in Christian spaces before, you've heard that passage time and time again. And you probably heard the same interpretation, is that basically there's this person, a lawyer, and he's trying to trap Jesus in this, mental riddle and trying to get him to say, well, what's the law? Who's my neighbor? And then Jesus flips it on his head and says, well, the neighbor is the person who actually did the thing they were supposed to do, not the people, because he knew that, you all don't like Samaritans for this reason, that reason. And the funny thing is, I think it never says that Jesus doesn't agree with those reasons. I think that's kind of funny. if I use as my mentor used to say, my preaching imagination, it wouldn't be funny if Jesus felt the same thing about Samaritans that the people he was talking to did, and he still said this? Wouldn't that be interesting? Wouldn't that be more realistic to how many of us are, right? But he says to him that this person, the one who actually helped him, is the neighbor, not the priest, not the lawyer, not the Levite, but it's the person that did what needed to be done, went beyond the pale. Now, I will tell you this, as someone who goes to conferences, academic and otherwise, it would be great if it wrapped up like the way it did in that passage, right? It's like, oh, well, I mean, after you said all that, my, question is now answered and I'm done and don't need to talk any further, right? That's how you know somebody kind of made that pretty at the end, because no debate ever ends that nicely. But ultimately, what he's saying here is that this person is your neighbor, not these other two people who are from you, who are part of your group. And so this is the problem. I think sometimes when we think about who our neighbors are, we automatically think about people who we like. You know what I mean? Like, our neighbor is the person who is right next door to me, who I like. It's Susan with the 2 kids and the dog, and they play with my 3 kids and the cat, and she makes Christmas cookies. And when it's Easter, I do an Easter egg hunt at my house. She's my neighbor, not the person across the street directly from me who doesn't mow their lawn, who, sits out on the porch, doesn't really say much to anybody. They're not my neighbor. And certainly not 2 houses over with the Trump sign up. They cannot be my neighbor. They don't even exist. I don't even know how they're alive, right? So they are not my neighbor. But no, the person who lives 3 exits down 495, they're my neighbor, because it's only like a 20-minute drive away. Because I like them, and they pick up my kids from soccer sometimes, and we'd have hobbies together. But the person who sits next to me on the bus that I see when I go to work every day, they're not my neighbor because they smell funny. I don't know why they smell funny, but they do, and they aggravate me. So even though I see them every day on the bus, and sometimes I see them more than my own family members, they don't count. They're not my neighbor. I don't want these neighbors. I want to pick the neighbors that I want, because that'll help me. It's about me. I want to pick neighbors. That's what I want. That's essentially what the passage here, in my view, is trying to communicate. Like I said, the typical translation and interpretation of it is, these people who are socially looked at as outcasts and wrong and practicing the wrong religion and have, a bootleg temple, and they're just, they are the, to them, it's like, the Israel is Fruit Loops, and Samaria, well, they're just, fruity circles. You know what I mean? They're the off-brand. They're not the real. They're generic. It's like, you wanted Frosted Flakes or sugar-coated cornflakes of cereal. That's what they are. They're not real like us, type of thing. But another way that I see this, and I think with the work that I do and what has all happened recently, what it really shows me is that it doesn't mean that our neighbors can't be people who we like and enjoy. Like, that doesn't have to go away itself. But neighbors really, truly are people whose fates, lives, and destinies are intertwined with our own. I'll say that again, that our neighbors aren't just the people that we like. They are the people whose fates, lives, and destinies are intertwined with our own. That sounds real cosmic and very Star Wars, right? But I mean it on a different level, too. One thing I found very unique in looking at that passage again was that The two people who walked past, even though they were, Jewish, these were people of higher class, right? It was a Levite and a lawyer, someone deals with the law. These weren't everyday folks. These are the folks who were, up on Capitol Hill, the folks who are walking through Farragut Square with their briefcase, hoping to make it to their meeting on time to meet with the congressperson or whatever else in one of the fancy buildings on D Street or something like that, right? But the truth is, for the majority of people who would have been listening to this, they had far more in common with who? The Samaritan than the priest or the lawyer. And that's why it's important, because our lives are bound together. Think about something happens. What if something happens to our water? We all drink the same water. Doesn't matter where you are. We're neighbors. The things that happen to one of us impact all of us. And while it's okay to be scared and even angry, and even to acknowledge, I really don't want these neighbors. They're weird. They do things that I don't like. They do things that I don't understand. They're loud. They're unseemly to me, maybe even unkempt to me. But the truth is, we're far closer to them in our fates than we are to the people who we may aspire to be. And let's bring it down home a little bit closer. That, we have more in common with the trans person than with Trump. All of us. That even with any advantages that we might have, that our fate is closer to the unhoused people in the tents that Mayor Bowser bulldozed away, or to the black woman who you think has an attitude, or to a disabled person whose need for an accommodation on the bus made you late to work. We're all far closer in our fates than we are to anyone else. Most of us are 1, 2, if not 3 paychecks away from needing a tent outside for ourselves rather. And that is really why we have to focus on we are neighbors. Our neighbors are people that we may not even like. Our neighbor might even be a Trump supporter, which, sorry, that's disappointing. But one thing that my work has noticed and helped me to realize is that a lot of people, particularly this time, made that choice out of fear and lack of different options in their mind. Doesn't necessarily make it the best choice, but that there is something human there that has to be seen, a need gone unmet. Very much like that person that was on the ground that everybody was walking past. And people usually like to translate it as, oh, well, the reason why the priest didn't touch him is because he was beaten up and he was bloody and he didn't want to get, he didn't want to be ritually unclean, which is fine. But here is something to consider about that. Might it be that while, yes, it's true that that could have had something to do with it, and the lawyer could have had something where to be on time, but that it is a commitment to a very, very weak, boneless, even sense of civility that keeps us from actually reaching down and picking people up, that prevents us from seeing everybody as your neighbor, for seeing the people whose lives and fates are intertwined with yours as neighbors. And again, it doesn't mean that you're best friends. It doesn't mean that you know each other's deepest, darkest secrets. But I do know one thing. If a house blows up across the street over there, guess what we suddenly all are? What? Neighbors. What happens if suddenly, because they roll back vaccines and there's a measles outbreak everywhere, and even though, I don't know, If you all took your names off, I wouldn't know them anymore off your names tags. But if one person gets it, what does that make us all suddenly? Neighbors, right? The food supply goes bad. Eggs, are eggs still really expensive? Just things like that, the little things that we think, and we can look and see, like, come on, let's just be honest here. We're on 16th Street. Okay. We all have different levels of income, of access, degrees, education, all of that. But none of that would matter in the blink of an eye. And there are a select few who are far removed from everybody in this room and far removed from everybody that we know that are making life a mess for all of us. All of us are going to get old one day. All of us can get injured. All of us need something at some point, at some time, that we cannot get on our own. And the only way we will get it is if we remain connected to one another. So my encouragement is to not isolate. I'm not saying not to be angry. I'm not saying not to be annoyed. But what I'm saying is to ground yourself even deeper in a sense that we are all neighbors. And that the people who are working very adamantly on the other end, who may want to advance that, acknowledge that, but also recognize that that tendency is all in every one of us too. Because I also get annoyed. For example, self-checkout. Right? And first I'll say, it's the good part where it's like, I'm basically saying, why do we have self-checkout? This could be more jobs for people. Why are they making me do the work here of this? They could have somebody else here and pay them to do it. But then there's someone who has trouble with computers. And all of a sudden, I become Ronald Reagan. And I'm just like, why won't you hurry up? Why are you taking so long to press all these buttons? Hurry up, let's go move. Why are you here? I hate this place, but guess what? That's my neighbor. And we're in the same self-checkout line. But because I can move through faster and because I don't have to swipe my Snap card to get my grapes, I may lose sight of that. But guess what? If something happens to that grocery store, what happens to both of us? What does that make us? Yes, hungry. But also neighbors. But I want to suggest that the priest and the lawyer were so committed to this very tepid sense of civility that they would even embrace seeing great harm done in order to keep it intact. It's almost like being in a situation where you are so desperate to maintain civility that you will embrace warmongers and bigots for their endorsements rather than actually advocate to change something. I don't know if that sounds familiar to anyone. But here is the thing. All of us can get caught up in that sense of civility. It's just how our society likes to work. It's not just them, and it's not just you. It's me too. I get annoyed when someone gets on my bus. It makes the ramp pop out because I have a tennis match to be at. Or I have somewhere else to be that is more important than having to wait for this thing to pop out that the driver barely knows how to use, right? But guess what? That person is my neighbor, and they have somewhere to get to as well. And they pay into the same pot that I do to be able to use that bus. These people are our neighbors, even the ones who vote the way we don't like, who don't think the way that we do, who have, at least in my experience, often very valid fears, but lack the skills and capacity and resources to reason through them. which means that they're easy to take advantage of. Doesn't excuse what they do. You don't have to be a nuclear physicist to understand that, racism, bad. However, I think it could be so easy for folks in our position to forget just how not usual some of those things are. Again, most people in the United States do not have even a college degree. So even in the midst of all of this anger and fear, and yes, there are going to be bad things that happen, I believe that our work in this moment is to really acknowledge that, while I don't want these neighbors, they are my neighbors. It's not about picking them. I can still go to Susan's house and have Christmas cookies, and her kids will still come to my house and have the Easter egg hunt. They can still do that. But the reality is, we're all neighbors. The only thing that will defeat the Leviathan on the other end that's coming for all of us is to realize that it is all of us. We are the ones, if we figure out a way to be together and move together toward a world that's better for everybody, even if it starts at your own block, that is how we push this thing back. We don't push it back by saying, oh, you're on the ground, well, you shouldn't have voted for him, bye. Or, I'm on my way to a meeting, you're a little bloody on the ground, and, I have to go meet up with, this thing over here, sorry. That's not how we do it. We do it by getting down and realizing that, okay, I don't care if I'm in my, best tuxedo, my gym clothes, or a potato sack. That the only way we get out of here is together. And also, let me mention this, what also makes them all neighbors, even, and this might sound slightly contradictory, but just follow me here. And if it is, okay, take a point away in the exam. The Levite and the lawyer do not think that they're neighbors, not only with the person on the ground, which very likely could have been a fellow Israelite, right? The truth is, the man on the ground, the priest, the lawyer, and the Samaritan are all neighbors. And you want to know why? Because whatever put that man on the street and knocked him out and made him bloody to the point of needing help is out there, and it can get any one of the four people I just mentioned. And so while they're arguing and walking past and seeing who's really the neighbor, there's something else out there that no one else is paying attention to that can very well put them in that same situation. You see how their lives are all linked together? Whether they like anyone or not, they're all walking down the same road with the same bandits. And that's what used to happen. People would kind of wait along the road. So if you were traveling from town to town, they would know certain spots. They would come out, rob people, and keep it moving. Everybody was on that road. I don't know about you. I don't have my own personal highway to drive on. I don't have my own personal bus. I wish I did. We are on the same roads, in the same grocery stores, in the same metro, on the same block, on the same water supply, on the same insurance, on the same planet. Need I go on? We're neighbors. And even though I may not want them, they may not be the neighbors I would pick, it doesn't mean we're not neighbors. We're neighbors by circumstance. And the more we hold on to that and really embrace that and say, listen, the person who is unhoused on the street I am unhoused as well, because if they can be here, I can be here right next to them too. The same situation is available. The same pitfall is for both of us. They just happen to fall first. That if we can do that, if we can hold on to that and further embrace that, then I know we can win. I know we can come out of this moment, but we're going to have to do that part. We have to rely on one another and remember that we are all each other's neighbors. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Verdell. In a few minutes, we will have our community sharing time where you can write into the chat or share in person about what resonated with you today in this platform. While we listen to today's musical response, you might prepare by reflecting on a personal experience or activity at WES that the platform has brought to mind. Please distill your thoughts to a single idea that you can share in 1 to 2 minutes. And if you have many, many thoughts, please save them for after platform, where you're encouraged to find someone who you don't know very well, maybe someone you don't know at all, and strike up a conversation about what we talked about today. So, our musical response. This is the time where we add our own voices to the morning, sharing our reflections on the platform or what resonates with our personal experience. For our online participants, I invite you to share in the Zoom chat or in the comments if you're watching the recording later. If you're here in the hall and you'd like to share a brief comment, you can come up now and form a line to the floor mic right there. When it's your turn at the mic, please begin with your name and pronouns. And when you've finished, please return to your seat. Got enough space? Is that enough space?
I think so. Yeah. Hi, Julie, she, her. I grew up in a very toxic religion. I was literally like ostracized, excommunicated. People aren't allowed to like talk to me anymore. However, it was after that I actually read the Bible without any dogma. And I often say to people, I'm not a Christian, but I really like Jesus. And I've commented many times at WES that I think it's interesting that we are willing to quote every sort of Eastern, Middle Eastern, or Jewish religious leader, but my goodness, if we even say anything about Jesus, people are going to lose their minds. So this is me saying, I'm not mad. Thanks. It was actually nice to have something about this. The Samaritan thing as well. I used to work in the same building as Fox News. I was a bartender, and my favorite person actually worked at Fox News, and one of my favorite people. And we would talk about things, and I would say, we agree on where it needs to go. We just disagree on how to get there. And I would say about him, you know what? He's the type of guy you want to be your next door neighbor.
Well, thank you. That was a very interesting talk, and I appreciate your giving it. My name's Loretta Newman. I'm very concerned about the idea, though, that almost anybody's a neighbor, because I do not imagine that Trump or his cronies, billionaire friends, would consider us neighbors in the sense that you were portraying. If one of them fell down and hurt themselves, I'm sure almost anybody in this room would pick them, would help them and get them. I mean, I've done that in the past myself. But I can't imagine Trump or any of his cronies doing the same for us if they saw us along the street. The only other comment I want to make is over Christmas, I'm leaving Tuesday to go home to Texas and be with family, and most of whom are Republicans and Trumpies, and I cannot get them to talk about why. I have been in a couple of fights, and I just have to say, Loretta, calm down, let them be what they want to be, because I still love them. They're still, it's like you're saying, still neighbors. Well, they're still family, and I can't take that away, and I don't want to, but I'd give anything if I could find a way to convince them not to believe the things they believe. So we'll see. I'll let you know after I get back.
I'm Judy, she, her, and thank you very much for your talk this morning. You helped me put a frame around what's been happening for me, which is I'm resting on my white privilege to be able to put my head in the sand and do a media blackout. And I don't know if it's quite feel sorry for myself, but be afraid and sad and distraught and disappointed and just trying to get from one day to the next. But you have reminded me that very shortly I'll need to get over it and get back out there and remember that we are bound up with one another. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Peggy Blair, and that really hit home for me because literally my neighbor they're Trump supporters. And the last election, 2020, there were like dueling signs between my house and theirs faced at each other. But this election, somehow there were no signs yet, but there's still all these flags waving and all that kind of, upset me a little bit. And I'm on a friendly basis with them, and we exchange, little, goodies at Christmas time and all that. And what I'm kind of wondering is how much do I probe beneath that superficial friendliness? Do I want to ever talk about them, about anything remotely political, or should I just keep it on a very superficial, friendly basis?
Oh, that's better. Jeff here. I know you said 1.2 quick ones, though. Amy, when you did your reading from Sophie Scholl, she was tried and convicted of treason in wartime Germany for the distribution of anti-war leaflets on a university campus. She was sentenced to die by guillotine. Only in her case, as just to make an example, she was placed on her back in order to have the final horror of watching the blade fall. And Vernell, when you mentioned the infighting amongst progressives and liberals and Democrats about the outcome of our most recent election, I could not help but recall the words of the noted 20th century philosopher Yogi Berra, who, when explaining why the Yankees lost to the Pittsburgh Pirates in the 1960 World Series, said, and I quote, "We made too many of the wrong mistakes."
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Sarah Morris. Thank you so much for your fantastic message this morning. It also hits home similarly to, I think, Peggy was saying. Our neighbors, our longtime neighbors, are moving away, and they're very like-minded and progressive. And so recently, we were standing out front when their realtor came to visit, and we said, "Don't sell that house to any, Trump administration people. We don't want them here." And she said, "Don't worry, they all go to Northern Virginia." So, but now I really appreciate that message, that now I feel much more better prepared to be in the spirit of neighborliness with whoever ends up next door.
Hi, I'm Shayla, she, her. I love the message too. I love that story from the Bible. I just saw a video, a little ad, I think it was on Facebook or something. It was a child who is in a pool and starts to drown. And her mother comes out and gets on her knees and says, "God, please help me, thoughts and prayers." And everyone starts coming around, thoughts and prayers. Even someone next door, neighbor, is mowing the lawn. "Oh, thoughts and prayers." And I mean, it's actually about gun violence and how thoughts and prayers are completely useless when you can act. So I just thought, neighbors, we do see what's going on, pay attention, and don't just stand around if there's something you can do. So I really appreciated that story this morning.
Julie, she, her. I'm not ready. Everything is still raw. I am not only angry, but I'm heartbroken and sad. And I'm sad for the multicultural group of people who backed Trump. It hurts to me that even any Black people, including Black men especially, voted for him, that any Latinos went for Trump, that any Muslims and Arab Americans did in huge numbers. And part of the reason why it hurts is these are the people who are going to be racially profiled. Okay, these are the people who are going to lose the FDIC and the Department of Education and really any safety net and Medicaid. And it hurts me that that's the America that we're living in right now. I don't believe that anybody should excuse a racist, rapist, grifter, who is now the president of the United States. And in good parts of the country, people will be reading Trump Bibles in school. And so I'm not ready to accept any neighbors who have embraced such ugliness and are really helping to destroy our democracy.
I just want to say that it was a really interesting talk, and I just try to remember whenever I feel angry at the people who voted for Trump, and especially like the groups of people who will be negatively affected by it. I try to remember that everyone is like a human, and everyone had a reason for voting for him, and a handful of the time that reason isn't a good reason, and then I get angry. But then there are people who were just scared, and he was promising them things and they didn't know better. And so I just try and keep that in mind, and that everyone is human while I'm doing that. Anyway, Ash.
Okay. So this is not as much about the platform, but I just want to say our dad on the tech team, today is his birthday. We just want to share a couple things and then sing at the end because we love him so much. So he's been there for me forever, even like in the lows, even like when I'm frustrated and I'm just feeling angry at the world and feeling angry at everything. He's been there for me and he's understood. But he's also stayed calm and he's also listened to me, and I'm I'm really grateful for him, and I'm really grateful how amazing he's been for us.
He's honestly, he's so caring and so kind, and like there are people that we've both met that I personally don't like, and I just like I genuinely dislike them. But he's always, no matter who the person is, no matter what they're like towards him, no matter if they're rude or they're mean, he always shows them kindness and gratitude and patience. And he always he's just always ready to hear people out and ready to help people no matter what they're like.
He gives really great hugs. And he's really kind, and he listens to all my problems and solves them.
Now I was wondering if everyone could sing happy birthday to Michael, because we love our dad so much. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Michael. Happy birthday to you. And John. We love you, Dad. We love you, Dad, so much.
And also, John, I guess it's his birthday too, I think.
Let's keep the birthday song rolling. Let's go. Birthday songs for everyone. That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who has shared their thoughts here this morning. I'm going to check in on the Zoom chat real quick to see what our Zoom participants have been saying. Bill Wilson says, as an agnostic, I find it interesting and useful to see how such religious stories survived and underpin our current ethics. Peter Bishop says, at a recent meeting at Riderwood of Catholics in Conversation, Mary Novak of Nuns on the Bus advocated for talking to others about issues by starting with the freedoms that we all want and going from there to talk about an issue you wanted to talk about. Her presentation was a little bit better than this summary, though. Sam Nguyen says, thank you, Verdell. Great message. I think it's important to not demonize people whom we don't agree with, or who don't vote how we do. We are all neighbors and all in this together. Two of my favorite quotes: how do you hate me when you don't even know me? and When Two Enemies Are Talking, They Are Not Fighting, both from Daryl Davis. We also have Karen saying that today is John Leica's birthday, so happy birthday, tech team. And it is also Mibby Lou Valink's birthday, Joe London adds. So it's an auspicious day for birthdays today. Happy birthday to all of our birthday people. Thanks to everyone who shared their thoughts and attentions this morning. And just as we share our perspectives in this community, so too do we share our resources and gifts. Here at WES, we split all undesignated gifts in the Sunday collection between our operating budget and a fund dedicated to justice and compassion. Throughout the month of December, we are sharing with East of the River Mutual Aid. East of the River Mutual Aid provides groceries, produce, and basic household essentials to neighbors across Wards 7 and 8 in Washington, D.C. This month, they are working to raise $8,000 to buy new coats to help some of our most vulnerable neighbors fight the cold this winter. So far, they have raised $5,425, so over half of their goal. By participating in this fundraiser, you are helping to create a cycle of care that turns despair into hope, helplessness into action, isolation into connection. It is the essence of community care for our neighbors, a force that not only helps us survive the cold, but is also able to help face whatever challenges the future holds. So let's all take a moment to prepare to respond to the invitation to generosity as we're able to. You can donate online through the Breeze system at tiny.cc/wesgives or click on Give on our website, ethicalsociety.org. To donate in person today, you can place cash or check in the basket at the back of the hall on your way out, and you can always send a check in by mail. Thank you very much for your generosity. We will now receive your gifts and the gift of music. Thank you very much. I am going to mention a few opportunities to engage in the life of our community that are coming up. First of all, today is the last day to drop off your Giving Tree donations. If you don't have them here with you today in the hall, please speak with Genevieve McDowell Owen if you need to drop off your gifts at her home in Silver Spring later today. Also happening today, after platform, you may join Julie Grimes and Perry Bider in the social hall to help build the perfect WES playlist. Bring ideas of songs you've heard at WES or elsewhere that best represent your vision of the quintessential WES music playlist. So come and join us in the social hall after platform. This Wednesday, December 18th, is our monthly Wednesdays at WES gathering here in the main hall with a shared meal at 6 p.m. There's a suggested donation of $10 per person for dinner to help cover the cost and support WES. And there are also several groups meeting at that time as well. Next Sunday, the 22nd, is WES's Winter Festival. Some of our talented youth, Ellie Kravitz and Ash Dimian, are putting together a wonderful production themed around joy, love, hope, peace, and giving. You can help by volunteering to be in our production or by coming to the main hall to help deck the halls on the Saturday before, December 21st. That is it for announcements today. As always, you can find information about opportunities to connect in the weekly news and notes email and on the calendar page of WES's website, ethicalsociety.org. Thank you so much to the many people who helped create this morning's time together. Today's platform speaker, Verdell Wright, musician Perry Bider, our senior leader, Casey Slack, and staff members Indara Miles, Robin Kravitz, and Maceo Thomas. And of course, our platform production volunteers, the tech team, slide artists, Zoom chat ushers, in-person greeters, caffeinated crew, and our many Seek teachers. Again, if you are new to our community, please introduce yourself in person or via the connection form at tiny.cc/wesconnects or send an email to wes@ethicalsociety.org. At the conclusion of Platform Today, please join us for social hour either here in the hall or on Zoom at tiny.cc/wescoffeehour. You're encouraged to find someone that you don't already know very well, maybe someone you don't even know at all, and strike up a conversation about what resonated with you in today's platform.
I just have to add one thing. If you are part of the Winterfest planning group, we are going to meet for like 45 minutes to an hour after platform to figure out some more stuff for the play. So if you are in there, please wait after if you do not have plans, and we are going to be working on casting and some other final details. Thank you.
Thank you, Ash. Appreciate that. I will now invite you to join in our closing sing-along, music, and closing words.
So I know this song is still new to most of us, excuse me, and there are a fair number of words on the verses, but the refrain is very simple, so let's go over that. Ready? Right in the corner where you are, right in the corner where you are. Someone far from harbor you may guide across the bar, right in the corner where you are. Good. You'll get 3 chances at that. Let's start with a little intro, and then we'll go into verse. Do not wait until some deed of greatness you may do. Do not wait to shed your lights afar. To the many dreams ever near you now be true. Right in the corner where you are. Right in the corner where you are. Right in the corner where you are. Someone far from harbor you may guide across the bar. Right in the corner where you are. Just above our clouded skies that you may help to clear. Do not narrow self your way debar. Though into one heart alone from a song of cheer. Right in the corner where you are. Right in the corner where you are. Right in the corner where you are. Someone far from harbor you may guide across the bar. Right in the corner where you are. Here for all your talent you may surely find a need. Here reflect the bright and morning star. Even from your humble hand the bread of life may feed. Right in the corner where you are. Right in the corner where you are. Right in the corner where you are. Someone far from harbor you may guide across the bar. Right in
And now for our closing words. Let us go into the week ahead with compassion, understanding, and commitment, welcoming the stranger and being fully present in all our encounters. Thank you all for joining today's platform in person or remotely. We look forward to connecting with you again soon.